This is going to be a response to Mr. Daddyoca69. I think it's CB Now, communications is no way I can cover it in a small thing, or EMP. I would suggest, if you want to learn more about EMP, how to protect yourself from EMP, to check out Michael Faraday. He was a professor way back and discovered the Faraday cage, proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that you could if let's say not my size, but somebody smaller, could be put in a 55-gallon drum, sealed up, so it's sealed all the way around, and you could touch the sides of it and zap that 55-gallon drum with lightning bolts, and the person inside would be perfectly fine, wouldn't even know they were getting hit by lightning, because the stuff travels on the outside skin of the conductive surface. That's how you shield your stuff from EMPs. Okay, Faraday cages are our best known defense. Yeah, we got stuff that can penetrate it, but they're all lasers and stuff. You're assuming in your stuff worried about communications that we're fighting our own government or a big government. It all depends on what the poo hitting the fan situation is. You say that repeaters are no good. Well, the repeater allows my little 5-watt walkie-talkie to transmit to over 200 miles. Yeah, repeaters are important. And in a time of emergency, if the repeater is on emergency power, there's many repeaters, by the way, that are not only on emergency power, they not only have generators, they are totally solar powered. So yeah, and there's a couple of groups out there that even have spare backup repeaters that are in shielded places. You know, in case of an EMP, all somebody would have to do, that's an EMP. That's us we're not fighting our own government. All right. Now, in case of a economic collapse or something where our government pretty much goes away because they're broke or something like that, the short-range communications like these radios here, which are directly dependent on height. But what is nice about all of these radios is if you're trying to be, you know, just doing local communications, like with let's say, for instance, I'm going to say I got a lookout post up on top of the hill right there. It's pretty much line of sight from the compound to the observation post. So why would I use a 5-watt? You know, I would turn this all the way down to like a 1/2 watt. You know, direct line of sight gives very few other people the chance to intercept or even receive it. Now, if there was a EMP or collapse or something and you had your shielded stuff, a few other people would have it. Your motorcycle gangs and your prison people, most of them have PhDs in how to kill and steal. I know very few of them. Matter of fact, I've never met one of those gang members that had a PhD in communications. So even in that matter, probably a truck driver that has nothing but CB experience will be able to thwart a, what do you call it, the direction finding abilities of a convict. Alright, they're going to be, now hams could probably do it, but you have to have direct line of sight to direction find. You know, you can get general ideas by pointing directional antennas, and then you look at your compass and you see, well, this is pointing northeast, then I'll drive 10 miles north and I'll get another direction, and you see it's pointed southeast, and you draw the line on the map, and where the 2 points intersect is the general location of whoever's transmitting. That's the basics of direction finding in a nutshell. Now, you're saying, you know, these specialized weapons can be used against us. You got to remember, any government that uses a EMP device, or one of those pulse popping interference type devices, the range on those things are either fairly local or very widespread. So they're going to be knocking out their own communications. Our own government, and maybe Russia and China, are one of the few armies that have the capabilities, NATO, but NATO uses our stuff, that have the capabilities to go using the satellites as repeaters. There's some ham satellites up there that we can all use as, anybody can use as a repeater for short periods of time, as long as you know the schedule that the satellite's going to be flying over. So repeaters, yes, it's all depending on what the WROL situation is. If it's a solar storm, something like that, where me and you is mainly going to be defending against these big gangs, you know, the gangs of people coming out, then these are fine. Of course, these have less security than one of these, because all the gangs and everything will have CBs, and they'll have these, because you can pick them up at your average Walmart. Or even the Galaxy radios you mentioned can be stolen from a truck stop. Okay, now this is just going by numbers and the law of averages. Now, law of averages say these aren't available at Walmart. These are not available at truck stops. So there's going to be far fewer of them available, and people that know how to use them. Alright? So if you get one of these and you know how to use it, and well, let's say if you get these for your group, this is a tri-bander, by the way. It does 400 megahertz, 220 megahertz, and let's say 2 meters, which is 150, in that neighborhood. It's not exact, but you know, 2 meters, 1.25, and 70 centimeters technically. So I can jump on any of those frequencies, and the average person, even with a scanner, would have a problem intercepting our communications because they won't know where it's at. And most of the tards in prison don't know how to work a scanner, much less pick up on the repeater frequencies. You know, I can set this, you know, to transmit on one and receive on another, and no repeater, and whoever intercepts is only going to get half the conversation. So it takes a little bit of gray matter to work out some security. Now you mentioned the HF radios. This is an HF radio right here. Let me get this mic out of the way. My transmit capabilities on this is everything from 1.8 megahertz all the way up to 55 megahertz. This is an unlocked radio. In other words, technically, if something was to happen, I could transmit on pretty daggum near every frequency. The thing about direction finding in HF radio, it takes a government entity to do it, because basically they're all bounced off the sky. If we have a solar storm, the sun is going to be making up so much noise that basically these short-range communicate, unless you have a clear channel, these are pretty much impervious from sunspots. Not an EMP, they're not, but you know, as far as solar flares, 400 megahertz is pretty much impervious. So these little handy talkies will outdo a CB radio in times of a lot of sun noise. The reason that CB radio is worthless is because you've got millions of people all running 100, 500 watt linears all on the same 40 channels. Well, that guy is on a Marine Mariner's net. On 20 meters during the daytime, we can pretty well chat all over this hemisphere, this world. You know, I've talked to people in Italy, and everything on 20 meters during the day. And this is only 100 watts. 100 watt max radio. There's no linear here. I'd like to have a linear. If Santa Claus is listening, I would like to have an Alpha 9500 Santa. Unfortunately, I think all I'm going to get is a lump of coal. Alright. So I gave Santa my wish. You got a horizontal and a vertical polarization to your signals, and your RF signals. That's why when you're talking on a walkie-talkie, you can cut your strength, your distance of transmit in half by simply tilting the radio. You know, it looks cool to talk on it like this, right? But you're cutting your signal in half. It's meant to be like this. Hold your antenna straight up and down. It gives you your vertical polarization, and the person on the other end do the same. That increases your transmit and receive length. Holding that at any type of an angle cuts your efficiency of the radio. So remember, keep your antenna straight up and down on your walkie-talkies to get that extra little bit of distance. And the same with these wire antennas. Most people throw these up in the trees and they wind up with a horizontal polarization, and everybody they're trying to talk to in the mobiles or the truck drivers, our antennas are all up and down, and then they wonder why the signals don't work. An 11 meter wire is pretty long, so you know you have to have a heck of a tower to put one of those up in the horizontal position. That's why most people, you know, they stick their 11 meter or CB antennas up on top of big old poles. As far as the EMPs go, I think I covered that with the Faraday cages. Now, as you can see here, I don't know if you can see it, but all those wires running in there, those are all ground wires. And they all run to, let's see, 3, 6, 9. 9 sets of 3 8-foot copper rods going into the ground. Yeah, I know, I went nuts with my grounding. But you know what? Keeping everything grounded and everything, and by the way, you did say not normal radios. These Yasu radios do have a certain amount of shielding for the whole thing. The coax is also buried, and you know, burying it and everything gives it some resistance to electromagnetic pulses and lightning, and you know, just anything in general. It is not a guarantee. No, it is not a guarantee. But it increases your odds. It's just like going to the casino and play gambling. You know, you play the odds. The best way to do it is have spare stuff in a Faraday cage. Like I have a Yasu 897 that's also unlocked in a Faraday cage. And I have a 2 meter walkie-talkie in the Faraday cage. I have a set of these, actually I have 4 of those in a Faraday cage. I have some fold-out solar panels in a Faraday cage. And those stuff are all put away. I mean, those are stuff I don't use. That's just radios. You know, I'm far from being, how would you say, prepped the way I would like to be. Far from it. I am far from perfect in my preps. But I do what I can with what I've got. And anybody that does what they can, I mean, a family that has these are better than a family that has nothing. Something, nothing. Granted, they're short range, but some short range intel can save your ass. It's like a force multiplier, you know. You got comms, the other guy doesn't. It helps. You know, I'm not saying these are not perfect. It would be, if I had my choice between this and this, well, of course, I'd have this. I'd have this. It's more capable. If I had my choice between this and the 897 I got in the Faraday cage, of course I'd take the 897. Because it's an all-bander. I mean, repeater. Okay, that's about covered it. Depending on what the enemy is, your communications can be will be either mainly for listening or both ways.